Hi, my name is Jenny Crane, and this video is for Tom Mays' Integrated Equine Therapies, Osteopathy 3. This is Justice. He is a 23-year-old reining horse. He's a quarter horse. He's a nice and large quarter horse at that. He actually is not ridden, so he's in a paddock, just about most of the day and night, so he's outside. He gets food all day long. Yeah, he's he's Justice. As you notice, his eyes are weeping a little bit. He did just get shod and had some issues with that, so he was on Previcox for a little bit. He was just taken off Previcox last night, and there's going to be a bit of a waiting period, and he may be going on Bute a little bit later in the week. Already just looking at him, you can kind of see the flies starting to form right above his hoof, so right along this area. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. These are things as part of Tom Mays' class we really want to pick up on. And specifically, I want to show you that these flies are landing on some acupressure points. So, I know that's another class, but things to consider. So as I'm looking at him, you can tell that he has a nice sway back here, pretty full stomach. He has some dappling. If you actually look on the haunches, his medial gluteal muscles, they have some dips in them. I would say it's atrophy, but of course that's for a vet to diagnose. It's not for us to diagnose. I have worked on Justice here already for about an hour because he had some issues more up in the atlas area. We will be going back there just to kind of a rehash a little bit. But definitely I'm going to get some nerves, specifically the vagus nerve and the phrenic nerve, which is part of this Osteopathy 3 class. Okay, so I'm going to go, one of the big things in Tom's classes is, he does give us a protocol. I'll do my best to go into the protocol, but it's important to realize that Justice may be asking me to do something different, but I will do my best, like I said, to show you Tom Mays' protocol for his Osteopathy 3 class. And these are osteopathy techniques. I just want to make sure that's very clear. I am not an osteopathy practitioner. These are just techniques that we're using in this class. His third class, I should back up, his second class is a lot about the neck. That's what I just did with him before we started the camera. This third class is a lot of what's behind the diaphragm. But we really want to start up front and make sure that this heart is open, the heart caol is open, as well as going through, like I mentioned before, the phrenic nerve as well as the vagus nerve. And then we'll hit the vena cava, and then start working on some of the organs, especially the liver. The liver is key, the portal system is key to working the hind end, as well as the vena cava. But first, I'm going to show you, just as a reminder, the heart caol. So the heart caol is just energy, basically. It's the movement of the heart. So I can come off the body. Again, I want to be very aware of biomechanics, my own biomechanics. So I don't need to have my hand pressed up here. I have had some wrist issues in the past because of that. So you can easily come off the body and just start feeling that. And this hand, my left hand here, if I come around, no, we're not going anywhere, buddy. If I come around here, so the heart caol, this hand is on the heart, and I'm following it here, but when it comes caudally, when it moves caudally, that is the venous flow. And then when it moves cranially, that's the arterial flow. So it's kind of like this, and you notice that this hand, my left hand, which is going to be on his chest, is basically going more anterior and then caudal. Again, following that heart movement. Okay, I don't know if I'm pointing this correctly. Okay, so here I come. And he does have some blockage still caudally, but it's not awful. And again, I kind of, like I said, I mentioned I wanted to try to clear this up as quickly as I could. He may not move that much because his feet are in pain, but we'll see what we can do. So to clear the Caol, just as a reminder from the other 2 classes before this, you first want to go into the heart, and then you go into the pericardium, and then you go into the thymus, and then take up the entire Heart Caol, which is kind of the point that I'm at. So I take in all the greater vessels. He's not complaining too hard about this. Okay, so as a reminder, something that I'd want to do is to definitely work on the subclavian veins, especially if you get into some lymph work. You want to make sure that the subclavian veins are clear, because the lymph will come along, especially the dorsal. I call them the dorsal canals, lymph canals that run along the side of the back. They basically come over the shoulder and then dump into the subclavian. So if you were to work lymph today, I don't know if we're going to get there, that is something you'd want to be concerned about. Okay, so, I can quickly go up the jugular. I could spend all day here with him on this. So what I'm doing, you see I'm kind of moving a little bit fast, is I'm just trying to find if there's any blockages. And really, there's not too many. He's getting a little bit bored with this. He's like, didn't we just do this? I did a CV4 on him a little bit earlier after I cleared the blood from his jugular, vertebral, and deep cervical veins, bilateral, both sides. He did have quite a yawning fit when I was working up on his atlas to clear the blood from his atlas. And I did all of that before I did the CV4 or any of the craniosacral movements on his head. Okay. Oh, Joseph, you said you participate here. Okay, so for now we're just going to move on. And one of the first things we want to do before we head backwards is to check out the lung. The lung has 5 lobes, 5 lobes here. So we have the cranial lobe, which sits here. Now obviously then the caudal lobe, which is huge, and it flaps over the sides. And we're on his left side, so there's only really 2 lobes over here. And so what I'm going to do already, you can test out a couple ways to find issues in the lung. The first is craniosacral. You can feel the vibrations. So remember how in craniosacral you came off the body and you felt vibration. See, so this is a definite area for him. So you can circle in or basically feel that vibration and come into that area. Grab his halter. Now what I want to do, if there's any kind of energy cyst, I want to try to basically move it out his front chest, basically through the diaphragm. Now the lungs hold a lot of grief, so that is something else I want to consider. But a lot of AGRs, especially here in Northern California, and I guess in Southern California, we've had so many fires. There we go. That a lot is holding on to the lungs, and if the lungs have any issues, here we go. It's okay. Good baby. It's okay. Good boy. Did you let it go? Okay, baby. So if you noticed, he came backwards, which is again something that we know. When you catch onto the lung, and you want to push it out, whatever's in there, you want to push it out the front, they're going to head back. So again, that's just one of the techniques. Let's come back in here. Now I'm going to come a little bit softer in here and engage him a little bit in conversation. And I'll do my best to capture what we're saying. Okay, so generally he's sad, which makes sense. This is the lung. Can you tell me what you're sad about, buddy? There it is. So I'm getting a picture in my head, and this may be right or wrong. In John Upledger craniosacral classes, you know, we're not supposed to really be worried about those pictures. You know, you take them and leave them and not be concerned. But in Tom's world, you know, we do get a little bit more woo-woo. And what I hear Justice telling me now, when he was a colt, when he was young, he was just flying around some barn, and he was very happy, and he misses that. He misses running. There we go. There we go. Okay. So in craniosacral too, what we learn is the body itself will throw me off. So we'll say, I've had enough. I'm good for this spot. Does that mean there's still something there? Probably. But craniosacral, as in all body work, it's about layers. Layers, and it's like we're all big onions. Here we go. I'm a little bit deeper. So I'd say I'm almost to that caudal aspect of the cranial lobe. Okay, so it's definitely getting stuck on something. Right here is also where the aorta is. So I may or may not get to the aorta today, but that could also be holding on, or the lung itself could be holding on to the aorta, or the aorta could be spasm and it's holding on to the lung. Either way. And he's certainly not objecting to this. And he, I think, would really like some work on his aorta. But I need to, for organ work, I need to clear his vena cava for sure before I even think of going into his aorta. Does it always happen that way? Have I been with Tom where he does work on the aorta first? Absolutely. But where I am at, I prefer, and especially with this guy, I want to make sure that any of the toxins in his body have a place to go first. Before I inject new blood into a certain area or new circulation to area, I want to make sure that, there we go. Oh boy. I want to make sure that his body's clear. So I'm going to check out the other side. So over here on his right side, we're going to have the cranial lobe again. And then we have the accessory lobe. The accessory lobe sits right about here. And guess what stands right here? That's the vena cava, as well as the vena cava hiatus. So already I think he's getting ready for this one. So I'm just going to come in nice and softly. That was a lot of movement for him before. We know he has some pain in that right front. There we go. You can also move the lungs with blood, with circulation or blood. This is just a bit more efficient, is to come in craniosacrally. And with craniosacrally, I don't know if that's a word, craniosacrally. Craniosacral, if I think about, like right when you just was starting to look and chew, I was going into feeling the flexion and extension of this lobe. So just following that for a little bit here, seeing if it will unwind for me. He's taking care of his own acupressure points down there. Ting points. There we go. Okay, this is nice and soft now. I'm going to move on. He's getting a little irritated. So let's check out this caudal lobe here real quick, see if there's any points that I need to catch here. I'm just going through, feeling its flexion and extension. That's one way to do it. The other is to pick up the actual lung mobility, or the gait cycle of the lung. So it's basically swinging back and forth here. It's not bad. I don't think there's too much issue with this lung area. Or the caudal lobe. I'm just going to check. I know I said that his blood isn't really the significant here, but I want to check that pulmonary artery. So I'm basically trying to get nice and deep into that caudal lobe, and as I feel my hand going in, or caudal, I know that's his venous flow. He's starting to move backwards, or he's resting. There we go. Nice release. Yeah, just a bit of a blockage there. Okay. Great. So the next thing I want to work on, once I get the lung, the next thing I want to work on in Tom's protocol for the hind end is I can either do his vena cava now or his vena cava hiatus, or I can actually, before I do that, I can actually work on the vagus nerve and the phrenic nerve. I'm going to actually try to start there first, the vagus and phrenic nerve. Make sure that he understands what's in the water. The water, this is water that's been basically stored with a crystal, just a quartz crystal. So I guess, what do you call that? Gem water? There's a special name for that. Anyways, and then just a bit of Bach remedy. So I'm just outlining his vagus nerve. It comes out between C1 and C2. It joins the vagosympathetic trunk, comes right up here, and crosses under T12 where it hits the esophageal hiatus. Now the water is just helping me grab it a bit better. So again, I'm going to find out, it's at the posterior end of his C1, the wing of his atlas. This is also a great acupressure point, by the way. And I'm just going to try to pull that from his head a little bit. Nerve work is pretty painful, so we want to try to move through it as fast as I can. And basically I'm just following the flexion and extension of it, afferent and efferent movement. So now that I have this, I'm going to use my right hand is a router, and my left hand is where I'm going. So I'm going to try to show you with my body. If you can see my body slightly moving, that's the rhythm that I'm following. He might start moving. I'm going to keep at him. It's easier to do it if they actually move. I know he's a little sore right now. There it is, right there. Move a little bit. Here it goes. Okay, it's a little stuck right here in the shoulder. So Tom's nudge that he does, honestly, I'm still working on it myself. The basis of it is the movement. We are all animals. We are meant to move. It's easier to mobilize an organ or what have you if you're moving. It's the rhythm. We're all in a rhythm. If you follow that rhythm, whether it be the craniosacral rhythm, the circulatory rhythm, what have you, it's better that we move. It lessens the pain. And that nudge basically releases it faster than keeping him in pain. So right here, buddy. I'm merging with that vagal nerve. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, I mean, even though in theory, I want to say that I really do understand Tom's method, but I think for me, I just need more practice with the nudging. I'm getting there. But it is a very important aspect of it. So I'm just gonna, again, using my right hand as a router. See, he doesn't like this work. This is not easy, fluffy work. Pulling veins out, or excuse me, pulling nerves, not pleasant for anybody. But once you do it, the faster, the quicker you do it, the better it's going to be for them. He knows where I'm headed, right under the shoulder. He's breathing harder. Okay. Now, do I know exactly where it is? No, I don't. But I have a good idea of it, especially when he starts moving away, because you know that's where it's stuck. There we go. Am I on it out, buddy? Okay, I don't want him to give up on this, so I'm going to actually try to open him up a bit more. I'm going to put my hand on the top of his palatine, so my thumb is basically going to come up to the top of his mouth. If he lets me, I think he'll be fine with that. I need him to open his jaw up. I need him to relax a little bit more. I'm just going to throw some energy. Keep him engaged. There it is. Okay, so, I just came up and I feel like there's a large bit of energy coming out above his right eye. That's a belief system, so he's having some issues with the belief in him, either belief in himself, belief in what have you. So I'm just want to try to zero in on that. And I want to point out too that behind me and the camera, the person holding the camera is more than welcome to zoom out and show that behind me is a very large energy electric tower. So what I'm doing right now is I'm having to battle, feeling the energy of those and feeling his energy, realizing there is a difference between the two. And these are pretty powerful towers here. So they're putting out their own EMF. And I just have to realize what's his and what's mine. So the energy that I'm feeling, I can make sure it's not, or blocking out basically what is in those towers as much as I can. It's not optimal. Good boy. So he just gave me this is, obviously I'm not following protocol right now, but he just asked me to link up this belief system with his lung, specifically that accessory lung. I don't know what that's about, but I'm just going to try to run a figure 8 energy between the two. And listen with my heart, listen with my pineal gland. So thinking about inside my own head where that pineal gland is. And now I'm going to go down into his pineal gland, if he lets me. There it is. Again, this is just running figure 8 between the two. His pineal gland is a little bit wonky, but I think that's mostly because of the towers here. There we go. Now, interesting enough, when I first came and I saw him, he was hanging out pretty close to these towers. I don't know what that means, or maybe he's become friendly with the energy source. I don't know. Okay. So I was doing the vagus nerve. He's like, oh geez, really, again? Just checking that mobility, seeing where it's stuck. It's stuck right here. Trying to follow his rhythm. He's walking ahead of me. There we go. Hang in there. It's pretty important work for him. It's going to help release his, not only his esophageal hiatus, but also any kind of blood work, his vena cava. He's heading to his food probably for some safety. He's feeling pretty vulnerable right now. Finding that vagus nerve, which is in charge of our sympathetic. Come on, buddy. Come on, you gotta get out of here. Come on. Come on. Come on. We're gonna come up a little bit higher away from that power source. So one thing that Yolanda Mays told me once is it's like a dance. And Tom has said that many times, but that's something I have to work on, is become more graceful, basically, when I'm doing these nudges. And that's a hard thing to describe. Okay. Looks like he's a little thirsty. That's okay. I'm going to continue to work to feel this, see if I can just relax him a little bit. Now, before I even started this session, I did ask him as much as I could with my intuition if he was okay being videotaped for this. He was, but he's also a little bit nervous and a little bit grumpy. There we go. So now for this, what I'm thinking is I'm trying to get a lot of compassion into his vagus nerve here. And by the way, the vagus nerve is on both sides. I don't know why I started here on his right side first. I think his diaphragm is pretty shot on both sides. If I come back here and test, he's actually pretty stoked about it. Both sides it looks fairly even. where he's getting a little annoyed at the work. Oh, he maybe wants to keep away from his water. Is that what you want to do? No, come sleep. Okay, so I'm going to come forward now in interest of time. I'm going to come and work on his phrenic nerve. You see what I'm doing? I'm basically finding C5. The phrenic nerve comes out of C5 on the dorsal aspect of it. Fine, buddy. Get me in there. I know I'm yelling. I'm not yelling at you, buddy. I come down. The phrenic nerve comes down. It crosses over the vagus and comes into, okay, well, there you go. He knows what we're doing. It comes onto his diaphragm. But if you notice how low it comes, that is actually why they call it phrenic, the phrenic nerve, because it causes the heart to basically, if the phrenic nerve is in spasm, the heart is going to be in spasm. So here we go. And by the way, something that we did before when I was working on his atlas, I actually went using the efferent, the feeling of the nerve going back into his brain. I went up, and actually that helped me release his atlas. But now we're heading back. Good boy. Need more water? You gotta be good for me, buddy. This isn't what you planned, I know. Okay, so it gets stuck right about here. I'm going to trade positions. Nice deep sigh for him. Okay, moving forward a little bit. It's actually, nope, right there. Let out. So if you notice, the vagus and the phrenic nerve actually cross over, as well as the venous cava. On the other side, it's the aorta. It's like the whole area right here is just a centrifuge of issues, and why God made us and them this way, who knows? Okay. So I think a nice little release there. Okay. See, I'm going to take the dorsal branch here. There it goes. You're going to go in here, buddy. You're going to go backwards. There we go. There we go. Curve in. So I do have to be a bit careful with him because of his feet right now. There we go. Yeah? You're okay. Stay for the work. Stay here for the work, buddy. Stay for the work. You need this work. You called me. You called me. Through your owner. You called me. Be present. I know it's not easy. You have not had an easy life, have you? He's been doing a lot with things. So this guy, he does not deal with things, and I know this can get really woo-woo, but he does not deal with things on this plane. He's dealing with things outside. If he were a human, he'd be a shaman. He's actually calling me into his pituitary gland right now. I don't know why. I'm just following. I'm going to ask it to kind of, the rotation of the pituitary gland right now, it's a little stuck on the right dorsal quadrant. So I'm going to come in first into the area of ease and basically go into the left. Let it go back into the right when it's ready. And now slowly it's coming to the right. I'm going to actually push it a little bit into the right. There it goes. I'm going to stop here real quick. Not in the protocol now, but I'm going to come and do a sphenoid release real quick. So 45-degree angle. I'm compressing the sphenoid. I'm just going to do a quick compression and release. Stay with me. Stay with me, Justice. I know. I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at the camera. There it goes. So the left side does not want to compress. There it goes. Okay, so fully compressed. And now I'm going to bring it forward. Again, it's not straightforward. It's more at kind of a, oh, I'm bad at angles. It's basically, I want to come up this way. Maybe 45 degrees, maybe that's it. There we go. A little bit more on the right side, please. And right about. So the sphenoid right now is kind of wavering back and forth. There it goes. Okay. Good boy. Good boy. So good boy. You're doing marvelous. You're doing marvelous. It's a star. Yes, you are. It's a star. Okay. So, now again, in the interest of time, and I only have so much battery on the video, I'm going to come and I'm going to work on his vena cava next, his vena cava hiatus. So I'm going to use my right hand as the router, following that Caol rhythm. Again, as the heart moves in, or the heart, I should say, moves caudally, that's the venous flow. So first I'm going to find his vena cava into the heart. Using, to some degree, for the way that I work, everybody works differently. I use my imagination. What would it feel like to feel his vena cava right now? What would it feel like? And there it is. So in my head, in my imagination, if that's the way you want to look at it, I'm basically feeling the blood pumping into his heart. And now I'm going to come back a little bit and find where the diaphragm and that vena cava combined, and that's his vena cava hiatus. It's actually, let me just, there it is, right here. I'm not feeling too much issue. He's not having it. Get some more water on this. It's a little bit better. There's still he actually went to chew his aorta. That's interesting. There we go. So I'm going to go a little bit up on the vena cava, following the caudal vena cava. Again, I'm using my imagination. You know, I'm getting that these towers are kind of a drug to him. I know you can't turn there, buddy. They basically block the feeling, any feeling. He doesn't like to be away from it. Again, I'm back on that vena cava again. That already wanted to be in this pile of shavings. Stuck just right in through here. Oh, okay. So later in this protocol, we hit the kidneys. I want to make sure I clear this area. There we go. But I also want to make sure I clear where the right dorsal lobe of the liver. So I'm coming down here. Making sure that that's clear. Okay, buddy, here we go. I'm going to bend. Pick up the blood. Not that direction. Not that direction. Okay, what do you want to tell me, Justice? Do you want to tell me something? What do you want to tell me? Okay, that's my large intestine. He's pointing to my index finger is large intestine. I have to clear this, Justice. I've got to clear this before I can get to your large intestine. Okay, so bear with me, please. Picking up the Caol again here. It's really kind of hard to pick up a Caol here. I'm sorry, I'm making my camera person move here. There we go. Okay, that was good. Look how nice and easy he moves here now. Good. Okay, so now my next step, I'm going to go for the liver. And I want to start first clearing the blood from the dorsal lobe of the liver. Then we're going to go to the ventral lobe of the liver. And this is on the right side. There's another lobe, 2 lobes on the left side. So again, I'm going to pick up the Heart Caol, and I'm going to ask this dorsal lobe to clear into the vena cava. The liver to me feels like if you've ever opened up some of that chicken liver that they sell at the grocery stores that you can feed to your cats. It's a very tough organ. It's very thick versus the lung. The lung to me, everybody's different, they're going to feel it differently. The lung to me is like a sponge. Okay. So okay, so now I'm going to come down into the caudal, or excuse me, the ventral lobe of the liver. Again, picking up the Caol, and I'm going to basically ask the blood of this ventral lobe to go into the dorsal lobe. There it goes. Nice. Okay, now for this next, we need to get him off the fence. Again, he's hard to turn this way. So I'm going to give him a nice big circle. And we're going to bring him back up. Again, I want to try to stay away from these energy wires, electric wires. Like I say, oh, he wants to stay right here. Can you come over forward, please? Come on. Come on. You can definitely see this guy has his own thoughts on what should and shouldn't be done. So join me on this side. So we're going to come to his dorsal lobe, his dorsal left lobe now, and I'm going to clear it to the right. So basically I'm asking the blood, no. Switch this over. I'm asking the blood to come from this dorsal lobe and cross over into the right dorsal lobe. I'm going to go ahead and put the rope here in this hand. And with my imagination or with my intent, whatever you want to call it, if you do anything, you're going to come this way. You're going to switch this way, buddy. I don't want you going the other way. It's good that he bends towards me and into me. There we go. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Doing good. Okay. Yeah. That was a long time in coming, huh? Okay, so now I'm going to go to the ventral lobe. And again, this is huge. This lobe is, I don't know if you can see my fingers, but it's extremely large. So I'm going to ask the blood to kind of go kitty corner or diagonally up to that dorsal lobe. Grab his heart caol with my other hand. Again, it's important for us to clear the liver before we go to the organs because I want to make sure there's some place for the blood to go and release those toxins. The liver takes care of the toxins. It's also why the emotion that goes with the liver is anger. So if you remember, I earlier mentioned that he was grumpy. Well, probably grumpy because his liver has some toxins in it, which everybody's does in this day and age, so no surprise. That's why we have all that car rage out there, the road rage, right? That was my attempt at doing a joke. Okay. Good boy. Okay. So could he use more of that? Absolutely. But I want to show you now, I'm going to do another method of treating the organs, which is following the organ roll. Now with the liver, remember with the blood, I started with the right dorsal and the right ventral, left dorsal, left ventral. It goes the opposite way with, hang in there buddy, it goes the opposite way with the heart roll. Excuse me, with the liver roll. So basically what I'm doing, I want to make sure, so if you feel this hand, I want to make sure that it's squeezing. This ventral lobe squeezes, and the dorsal lobe squeezes. It's okay, buddy, hang in there. It's okay. You're doing fine. Good boy. So the dorsal lobe is going to squeeze down. The ventral lobe is going to kind of basically squeeze over to the right ventral lobe. So it's this motion that I'm doing with my hand right now. And then the right ventral lobe squeezes up into the dorsal lobe, the left dorsal lobe. So I come over here. I'm sorry, I bumped into you. Okay, there it goes. So automatically, first I'm just going to start with that roll, squeezing down into the ventral. And I can see if I can pick up He's like, what is that? What is that, bud? I'm basically moving his organs for him. Oh. Justice, be good. Now I'd really like to see a little bit more movement out of his dorsal lobe. So the dorsal lobe, when it moves down, ventral, I'd like to try to increase that a bit more. He already says yeah, basically. So I'm going to go and just basically take over that rhythm. And try to increase the movement. Oh. There it goes. Okay, now his ventral, I want to try to increase that as it squeezes over to the right side. Really see if I can get this in there. it go. I want to make sure his jaw is moving. That's going to help him release this a bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the other, but you don't have to, camera person, you can stay there. But I'm going to go from the left ventral lobe to his right ventral, and I can do this with my height. I can just reach over and grab the other side. For those people who are a bit shorter, you may have to either get a stool, although in Tom's work, you know, that's probably not ideal. Yeah, so his right ventral lobe is a little more stuck here. But I just want to bring this first, or do this one first, or this way, sorry, just to get the two organs working together. That the ventral left and the ventral right. And again, I'm using that mobility where it's just the ventral left is squeezing down and over, the ventral right is squeezing up. There we go. Okay, I'm going to switch sides. Okay, so I'm going to come over to this ventral lobe. I really want to squeeze it up. It does not want to squeeze up. And bring in that dorsal lobe to squeeze into the vena cava. There we go. Now my focus, I just put my dominant hand on his right dorsal lobe to squeeze into that vena cava. Still following the roll, the mobility of the ventral lobe. And here we go. Shake your head, buddy. Shake your head, come on. Gotta release more than that. I felt a big jump under my hands, so I don't know why he's not releasing more. Open yourself up, buddy. And it looks like I'm pressing really hard, but I really wasn't. There was more energy that I was trying to throw up. Yeah, there we go. Attaboy. Stay here with me. Stay here. Okay, so the next on this protocol is we're going to work on the esophageal hiatus. So this really brings to term the whole thought of osteopathy, because what I'm doing is I'm having to go down through right around T12, keeping up, thank you, that's a good boy, keeping up with his venous flow. So I'm going to keep my hand on his heart area, but I'm basically going to take an elevator ride down. I generally, again, I'm thinking more of doing this with my imagination. What would it feel like to touch the esophageal hiatus? Where is it? Okay, so he knows I'm there. I'm going to ask which way it's in torsion. So I'm feeling the venous flow as well back towards his heart. Okay, so I'm feeling that it's easier to move to the right. So basically clockwise, he has a right torsion. So it's easier to move to the right, but not easy to move clockwise. So it's a right torsion. So basically I'm going to come in and I'm going to unwind. Okay, it's coming forward, actually away from the stomach. I don't know why. Maybe it's just part of the unwind. Okay, now it's coming to the left a little bit. And there it goes to the right. It might take several tries for this one. Esophageal hiatus is extremely important. Not only does the vagus nerve come through this area, but you also have any kind of blockages. You're going to cause more acidosis in the stomach, which then creates more acid for the small intestine. As we know, the small intestine is more alkaline. So esophageal hiatuses, this is what causes ulcers. Oh, okay, so now it's coming a little bit to the right. Going to follow it. I feel some throbbing under my hand, under my left hand. I'm going to ask for the venous flow and see if I can take some of the blood out of there, reduce some inflammation. How you doing, buddy? There. So this is just an unwinding. I'm just following it. Okay, so craniosacral terms, I was just kicked out. In a craniosacral way, the body's saying, okay, I've done enough of that for now. Am I completely through with it? Probably not. It may take a couple more sessions with him. Could be quite a while. Or quite some time to get that fully released. I think he has a lot of other issues going on. But I'm going to continue, and in the next route of stuff that I'm going to be doing is I want to start clearing the portal. Well, I already cleared the liver, but now I want to bring the stomach and clear that. But first, I'm going to come up to T12 and T11, and I'm going to see if I can just very softly. After working the esophageal hiatus, this is a great time to work the vertebrae here. So I have T12, and I'm going to see if it want to move forward. You may not like this. Does it want to move forward? It certainly does. It's stuck against T11. It's pretty common. So I'm going to actually hold it as far as I can away from T11, more to T13. And then I'm going to check sideways. Does it want to go right? Does it want to go left? Okay, it does not want to go to the right, so I'm going to hold it to the right. So right now I'm holding up to the right, and now let's check if it wants to pivot. So it's okay pivoting to the caudally, but not too cranially. So basically I'm going to hold all those vectors together. Area of greatest restriction. And then I'm going to come in the area of least restriction. Let's come back out. Okay, so there's still a lot of work here, so I may not be able to get that vertebral right now. I'd need to spend more time on the esophageal hiatus, I think, for him. But you can definitely tell right here he does have some issues. You can just feel that vertebra is out of line. I think he likes that scratching. Always try to keep your clients happy, right? Okay. So now I'm going to ask him come in a nice slow circle because I need to get on his other side. Come on. Come on. He likes to stand in his pile of clippings here. Come up a little farther. Okay. So his stomach sits on the left side. So I'm going to ask the blood of his stomach to go. I'm going to ask the blood of his stomach, the venous flow, to go into that left dorsal. Right dorsal lobe. Stomach is on the left. I'm asking the blood to go into the right dorsal liver lobe. Hang in there, buddy. Coming on to the stomach. Oh. Shoot it over there. Again with my imagination. Hope. Hope. You're okay, buddy. Hang in there. I know this is hard for you. With my imagination, I'm asking myself, what would it feel like for that blood to move to that right dorsal? And there it goes. Here, oh. He wants to head back to his food for some reassurance. I'd like to try to keep him working. I know that he has all day, most of the time he doesn't have to do this, so I know I'm asking a lot of him, but he can handle it. And his owner will give him lots of love after this, I can guarantee you. There we go. There we go. Nice. Better he wants back to the his standing spot next to the electric wires, the electric towers. Don't quite understand that one. There we go. Okay. So after we work on the stomach, now we're going to come to the spleen. So the spleen to me looks like a big long leaf. It's usually around T17. That's where I'm going to want to shoot the blood up to that right dorsal lobe of the liver. It looks like a leaf, a long leaf. That's the way I picture it. It also has some mobility to it, a roll, and we'll capture that. But first I want to do the blood. Oh. Pick up the heart again. I hear a food truck coming, so we might be in trouble here in a second. Oh. Now, while I'm working on this, I will note that spleen work, especially with all the horses and the fires, is very, very important. I would definitely clear a lot of the horses I've been working on. I've been using this protocol, clearing the blood to the spleen, and then using the spleen to basically use that as a router to clear the lymph. And the lymph canal specifically comes along the top of the vertebra. It's bilateral. There's some big canals that come here, but there's also the sternal nodes. Do not forget the sternal nodes. Oh, is he gonna pee? Okay, good boy. That's a release in itself. They don't cut this out of more professional videos. They can cut this out, but take what I can get. Okay, so you're gonna go up there if anything, buddy. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to the spleen again. Oh. Oh. No, buddy. Sorry. No can do. I had some almonds in there. This probably smells the almonds. Oh. So some horses, just like children, they want to avoid the work. And we've already been working on him for quite a while already. Even before he started the video. So, I can understand he's a little bit tired. I'm pushing him probably more than what I would normally want to, but then again, I don't get out to see this guy very often, unfortunately. So, the more work I can do in a day with him, the better. Generally, I spend about 2 hours with each client. I'm trying to work faster. I'd love to be up to an hour and a half for each person or each horse. There we go. Good boy. Okay, so the spleen mobility. The spleen, again, it's a very large organ. Hey, you're fine, buddy. So I'm going to basically follow it, and it's moving cranial and caudally. Let me just pick up the rhythm here. I'm going to get close to the hind leg, so in case he does want to kick out, won't be too awful. Okay. So it is kind of stuck on the cranial aspect of it. Now we also get into the master flow in this class, which to me is just a very huge cranial sacral rhythm that expands over the entire body. Hopefully I'll have time to show that. I'm just basically pumping up the spleen here. There we go. Okay, and the next one is the pancreas. Pancreas is very important. It's a very small organ, but it's a very important organ. This one I have to really deep dive for. Clear the blood again to that to the right dorsal lobe. There we go. Hang in there, buddy. Hang in there. There it is. You're fine. I'm going to take him away from his food because I know once he does that, goes there, I will lose him. Come on. Come on. You have your food all day long, buddy. good. Yes, you are. Excellent work. Excellent work. Hang in there. Hang in there. Okay, so after this, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the stomach roll and follow that down into the duodenum and the ileocecal valve, duodenum, however you want to pronounce it. So I'm going to pick up the stomach roll similar to the liver and the pancreas. It has a cranial caudal movement to it, so I'm just going to find that first. I have it. I'm actually just rocking back and forth. And then I'm going to use the stomach as a router and follow his duodenum. He's getting a little tired of the work, I can tell. You're fine, buddy. Hang in there. Let me do this. Let me show them, okay? So, yeah, you need the work, buddy. I know you do. Hang in there. So the duodenum makes a bit of a J, and that's where there's a lot of issue. So I'm just basically pushing it through, following the stomach, using the stomach as a router. Okay. Now the ileocecal valve, the small intestine itself, there's not much I can do about that, even the large intestine. I can hit the duodenum, I can hit the ileocecal valve, and he knows he needs it. But the large intestine, before I do that, I want to get the urinary system, so the kidneys and such, to help release that large intestine. Hang in there with me, buddy. Okay, so I'm going to show you the master flow. This is Tom's special method. Again, I think of it more as like a large whole body craniosacral movement. It basically starts on the left. It's extremely slow. I have to wait for it sometimes. And I'm going to apply this to the ileocecal valve. But it comes up on the left very slowly, then it passes to the right, and it goes down the right side and then comes up the right side. So I just have to really catch on to that first. And my hand, I'm going to bring it down to where the ileocecal valve is. It's usually, I want to say T16, 17, 18, lumbar 1. I'm a couple inches off of the vertebra, trying to find it, and okay, there it is. So I'm going to wait to feel, and I already feel it, so it's coming up now. This one takes a lot of patience. Okay, it's rolling up over his body. Now my hand, I'm going to get ready here, holding my hand off the body a little bit, waiting for the flow to come back up into my hands. I may have been already too late. Hold it. Or is it? Okay, so it's still coming up. And hold on, right there, buddy. Did I miss it? Okay, I might have missed it there. Okay, so one more time. Hang in there with me, buddy. So when I'm doing this, I believe this is the one where I do it on step 2. So as it comes up and over, I'm going to grab it before it goes down to the right side and comes back up. I'm going to grab it as it's coming over the right side and into that, releasing that ileocecal valve. Oh, I'm sorry, no, that's just to release the cecum from the diaphragm. That's step 2. So I am going to wait for the full 3 steps. And while I was talking, so now it's over on the other side. Okay, it's coming back up. It's interesting, he's going for his right leg again, right? And down. Come on. Get it? Okay, so I'm going to use the stomach also here. See if I can get that. There we go. Okay, he's really dumping heat right now. There it is. So that was the master flow again. What a boy. Hang in there with me. Okay. Now I'm going to follow it back down to the left side, so I still have my hand on the ileocecal, but I'm following the movement with my intent. Okay, now it's on the left side on the ground. It's coming back up again. It's about right here on his shoulder. Gonna flip over to the right side. So that is the master flow. So after the ileocecal, I want to come into the kidneys. The kidneys drain directly into the vena cava. They don't go to that right dorsal liver lobe. Generally, the right side is a little bit more cranial than the left. It's also shaped more circular versus the kidney shape of the left side. I could have gotten that backwards, I'm sorry. But right now I just want the venous flow to go into that renal vein. There we go. Oh. Keep sneaking back here. Oh. There it is. There. So the blood, I think, is okay, although the roll itself, the kidney roll, is stuck caudally. I don't know why it's not coming cranially. I'm going to come over to the left side here. I know this guy. The second he gets to food, I've lost him. There's really no food in there that he hasn't picked through in quite some time. Hang in there, buddy. We're going to be eating soon. We're almost done. Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead real fast. Just because he's cooked, he's baked. So So I'm just going to show you that, you can do the kidney roll, right? I'm going to go say hi to his mom. I'm going to go in a little bit of circle. What are you showing us here, buddy? Okay, so I'm going to take the kidney roll to do the ureters. I'm basically going to follow that roll, and when the kidney roll goes caudally, that's when the ureter should also move caudally. So using the kidney as a router, I'm going to go down the ureter here. This is going to release a lot of the lumbar issues. Until I get down to the bladder. Buddy, come on. Come on, just a little bit longer, sweetie. You're doing good. I know, this has been tough for you. I know. You're a good boy. Yes, you are. You're a very, very good boy. Yes, you are. You're doing a very good job. Yeah, I just let him, if he wants to go to the food, I'll just show you. I don't need his head for this anyways. So basically I'm just following the kidney. My body, for safety purposes, I should be probably pretty close here. So his kidney is rocking back and forth like this, and on the caudal rock, that's when I'm moving forward on his ureter. Okay, so he's telling me it's his other side, his right side, so I'm going to switch over there in just a second. I'm basically almost down to the bladder right now. Again, using this left kidney as a router. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to switch sides. I think he's got some bird poop over on this side. Bird might have pooped on him. I don't know. I don't think that's really bird poop. I don't know what that is. Some white stuff. Who knows? So again, I'm coming into that kidney. It's a little farther up here. Yeah. The kidney does not want to move caudally. So the swing should be like this. I should be feeling this whole thing. See how far my hand is moving? And I'm not. I'm feeling something like this. So there are two ways to approach this. I can come in and go in the least area of restriction first. So I'm really going to push it cranially. Okay, now I'm going to really think about bringing it caudally. Still following it, the cranial swing of it, but trying to push it forward caudally. This is another great move for the master flow. There we go. The kidneys are probably the easiest to pick up on any sort of roll. So if you are learning rolls, you can probably start with the kidneys first. I guess it's kind of how I started feeling any sort of organ roll was the kidneys. But sometimes like this one, so he just stopped. So if I want to power or kick up the power of these rolls, I come under here to the xiphoid process. And I link the two. Okay, I'm kind of in a bad area because I want the camera to see me. I'd probably better have my other two, my hands switched. Record. Okay, so where we stopped just a moment ago, I was basically working the spleen. I noticed, and as I come into the spleen again, here it is. So we're having trouble with the spleen moving caudally. And I was trying to basically work first in the area of least restriction, so I was moving it cranially and swinging it cranially, finding how far it would go and pushing it even farther cranially. And again, that's the area of greatest ease. Now, if I want to go in the area of greatest restriction, which I do, I want to move it back towards the tail caudally and go into that area of greatest restriction. And it just immediately, just as I do that, it's really odd. I'm feeling the kidney basically stop moving. So where I was going, I think before my camera died, was I wanted to come up into the xiphoid process, which the xiphoid is really easy to find. If you feel that pectoral, the ascending pectoral muscle, and you come up towards like a bit of a V where those two muscles meet, then just down just a bit, that is your xiphoid process. So I don't know how to point it out. I don't know if you can see it. It's really hard, but there we go. It's right there. Okay, so I'm just gonna breathe into that and feel this kidney, try to connect the two. Okay, so I'm feeling a lot of vibration from the xiphoid. The xiphoid is fantastic to increase the movement and swing of any of your organs. So if you're having trouble finding or working in a certain organ, there we go. So automatically I'm already feeling this kidney swinging back much more powerfully than what it was. So because I'm having trouble caudally, I'm really going to keep my hand on the xiphoid and try to ask that kidney to go into the area of greatest restriction. See if we can loosen it up a bit. There we go. Attaboy. Okay, phew. That was a lot. Okay, so now, thank you, camera person. Now I'm just going to feel that swing again, and I'm going to come down to the ureter. And again, when I'm going caudally, that's when I push on the ureter, or I wouldn't say push, but ask that ureter to move with the kidney as a router. And you know, when I'm doing this, I want to tell you where the strength is coming from. It's not from my arms. It's actually from my gut, right down here. I think the entire time, this entire video that I've been doing, my gut has just been really tight, and that's where I want my powerhouse to be. I want it to be powered in below my belly button, and that's I'm forgetting the name of it. That offers my own greatest balance. I'm coming from my balance into his, asking him to be balanced. There we go. I'm always also reminding myself that my shoulders are relaxed. I don't know if you've seen that throughout the video. I'm constantly having to say, okay, shoulders relax, down with the shoulders. There we go. Slowly working this ureter. Okay, it's a little stuck here. So I'm actually going to come back to the heart, and I'm going to ask the venous flow to come away from that ureter. The ureters are just about an organ on themselves, by themselves. Now, if I had already cleared blood, the vena cava up through about L5, L6, this is another router that I could use. Let's see how strong that router is. Justice is like, what are you doing now? So I want to just check out this router, or sorry, that L6 area where there's a bifurcation of the vena cava. It goes on to the left side as well as the right side to then go into the femoral vein. There we go. So I'm asking the blood to come back towards the heart through that vena cava. There it is. Okay. So now keeping this mobility, I'm feeling it come cranially, and that's the vein that I want. So now I'm going to come into this femoral vein, asking it to come up into the vena cava. There we go. There it goes. So I want to clear, I don't know exactly what I'm thinking about here, except maybe the ureter, the veins that are surrounding the ureter, the femoral vein. Basically, just asking to clear this area. Now he does have some soreness here. The owner was mentioning to me that he will kick out, or has threatened, I don't think he actually has kicked out, but I think he threatens to. So I'm going to be pretty careful myself. Today is not a good day to be kicked. No day is. And really, I'm in a horrible position, because really, to protect myself, I need to be on the other side with my hip as close as I can. I just really want my hand to be... Okay, camera person, I'm going to switch places here. So I'm going to see where it's coming. Just use the back of my hand here. Now let's see, I want to see if he will allow this. I want to stick my hand basically needly into, almost not to his scrotum area, but I want to come from behind and basically lay my hand on his adductor and gracilis as much as I can. But I'm going to let him know where I'm going first. So I'm going to pet his back, his semimembranous muscle, just let him know. And I'm going to come under here so he knows where I am. So now I'm on that gracilis muscle. The rectus femoris is a little more cranial, but I'm really asking to come up in between his legs. Okay. So now, with my other hand as a router, I'm going to basically ask the blood to come up his leg. It's kind of sweaty up there. And I'm going to come up this way. There we go. There we go. I don't want to give him a goose, so I want to be careful where my arm is. But now I'm basically on the rectus femoris. Asking that blood to come up. Okay, I'm going to come back down here, actually come to his hock, and I'm thinking in my body, I know that flow, that Caol. I've been working blood on him long enough that I can feel it anywhere in his body. And I'm basically now going to ask the blood to come up his leg. So especially around his stifle, his patella, behind the patella. I know something I did forget when I worked on the esophageal hiatus. I should have had some stomach points. So stomach 36 is right off of that tibial crest. So ST36 is right about here, so I'm feeling for that tibial crest. So it's right here. But that I should have tried that, as well as ST2, which is right under his eye, which I did do before we started the camera rolling. There we go. And so now, again, I'm just, my shoulder's up against his leg, so if he decides to kick out, I can push him in. And I'm just very gently asking for the blood flow to come up his leg. There we go. Not so sure about that, are we, buddy? Coming up to L6 again, use that as a router. Okay. Okay, so I think we're going to end here. What's always very good is to do your rock and glide craniosacrally afterwards, just to give their whole body a reset. You can also do a still point. That's also very important. So I'll go ahead and do that to finish them up. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for watching this extremely long video. And I wish you guys all the best, and I look forward to you in class. Again, this video was for Tom Mays' Integrated Equine Therapy, Osteo 3. Thank you, and have a great day.